Hi, Angie.
Hello. I'm just sticking my head in here for a minute to say hi. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, and I'm so glad you're here to get trained. Catherine, our expert on voter registration, is going to be the person leading this training, and I'm just going to do my best to run the tech. We'll be showing a PowerPoint along with her explanation.
We're going to first go over the card. You will be able to look at the voter registration card as Angie is presenting. We can register with this card anyone who lives in Missouri. At the top, are you a citizen? You have to be a citizen to register to vote. Will you be 18 on or before the next election? You have to be 18 to vote. However, you can register at 17 and a half, and they will keep your card on file. Line 3, are you a new registration, an address change, or a name change? Obviously, if you've never registered before, you're new, but you're also new, even though you may have been voting for years, if you have newly moved to our state or even to a different county. If you lived in St. Louis County and you moved to Jefferson County, you would be a new registration. If you moved from St. Louis County to St. Louis City, you're a new registration. The city is its own county. Think of yourself in St. Louis County. If I move from Florissant to Hazelwood, that's in the same county. That's a change of address. If I move from Melville to Chesterfield, that's a change of address because it's still within St. Louis County. It's within the election jurisdiction. Line 4, your last name, your first name, your middle name. The other two things on that line, you don't have to bother with, including the gender. We no longer do anything about the gender. Now, if you have someone filling the card out themselves, then they're welcome to put in whatever information they'd like. Now let's go back to the name. Not every culture uses a middle name. We find that in doing the new citizens after the naturalization ceremonies. With a foreign-born person, you might get a very long name consisting of 4 names, 5 names. So then you have to determine if you're at a naturalization ceremony, you look at that name on the certificate and you say, is this your first name? You assume maybe the first group of letters, right? Is this your middle name? And the rest is your last name? No, I don't have a middle name. There are cultures that don't use middle names. So it's all going to either go in the first name or the last name. You let the new citizen tell you, do not assume that it needs to be hyphenated, simply because we tend to do that. If we keep 2 last names, we put a hyphen between those names. If you're at a naturalization ceremony, whatever is on the certificate, whatever they point to as their first name is their first name. And whatever they point to as the last name is their last name, just the way it's written. Line 5, address, where you live, your house number, your street, your apartment, your city, county, zip code. Okay, the county is most important, especially in the St. Louis area. You go west on Delmar or Olive Street Road, one of the east-west streets, and the house next door to you could be in the county, and the house east of you could be in the city. But if they don't know that, then you just go forward, because I can find all that out. The zip code is very important. I can tell by the zip code if it's a city or county. Most people will know. Oh no, I live in St. Louis City. They'll know that. But every once in a while, somebody does it. Line 6, only necessary if you get your mail at a different location than where you lay your head. Some people have post office boxes. Some people may be out of town a lot, so they might have their mail delivered to their sister's house, something of that nature. There are reasons why you might use line 6. So when I do this, and either I fill it out or my customer is filling it out, they fill out line 5, and I'll say, now, is this where you get your mail? And most of us say yes, and then you can skip line 6. All right, line 7, a driver's license, or I put in there the state ID. People that don't drive don't have a driver's license. There's no need to get that renewed over and over again. So they get what's called a non-driver's ID, state ID. I write that in there, and then I just put NON, non. Although I'm sure the computers know when it's put in there that that's where it belongs. They would identify that. Now, it does say there, if you don't have a driver's license, please leave blank. But we were told it was okay to put that in. You can register online if you have a tablet, something you can sign, because at the end of this, you have to sign. Now, the online thing won't let you put anything on that line that doesn't look like a Missouri driver's license. It'll throw it out. It won't let you go on. Line 8, the last 4 digits of the Social Security number. Everybody has a Social Security number. Today, babies get Social Security numbers, but all the new citizens do too. I would like you to always get both of those if possible. However, if you have a non-driver who also can't remember the last 4 digits of their Social Security number, you just go forward and you finish it up, and I will send that to them, because somewhere at their house is the last 4 digits of the Social Security. Oftentimes students, young people, high school kids, we rattle off our Social Security, the whole thing, and then, oh, there's the last 4. I can't come up with the last 4 all the time right off the bat, but if I do the whole thing, the last 4 come. But a lot of times they don't do that. And so then when those cards come in, and if they don't have one or the other of the 7 or 8 written very legibly, then I send the card to their house for them to complete. I include a stamped addressed envelope, because by now I know where they live. I know if it's going to be St. Charles County or St. Louis County. Then I send an envelope with a stamp on it, and it's already addressed to where it needs to go. And write a little note and say, well, we met you at the fair the other day, and in order to complete this, we need you to do line 7 if you have a driver's license, or definitely line 8. Then 9 is date of birth. That always has to be on there. Place of birth can be optional. It's interesting if you have time to ask. Line 11, the phone number says it's optional, but I would like you to always get a phone number. Just say, and may I have a phone number, please? Just sound authoritative. Now, if they read that and say, oh, but it's optional, well, then that's fine. You go forward. It just makes it easier to call them. Like if I get the card back and the only thing missing is the date of birth, then I could call them. We had a husband-wife team register at a nursing home, and all of his stuff was filled out, but she was missing. And I called because they gave me a phone number, and I was able to get that. Then I didn't have to mail it. It didn't cost 2 stamps and 2 envelopes and time to write the letter and so on. So it's handy to have that. Line 13. Okay, look back up at line 3. If this is an address change or a name change, the name change would be, of course, if you got married, if you got divorced, although other people change their names too, besides just women, but it's so normal for us to do that. If you are a name change or an address change, then you're not registering for the first time. The election authority finds it helpful to know where you came from. So then you would fill out your name, your address, and then they can check that database. Yes, here it's Beverly Logan, and she used to live at 3918. Now she lives at 4182. Same person, all this stuff is correct. Then they check the date of birth and see that it all matches up. There's another time to use line 13, just the name line. When we are at the naturalization ceremonies, after we do line 8, the last 4 digits of the social, we ask them, so is your name the same on the social security card as it was on this certificate? They'll show you the social security card. If they don't know, then you just don't worry about it. But with the new citizens especially, that seems to be something that helps the election authority. Sometimes the social security card and the driver's license are an abbreviated name. They're small, less names. Yes, this is the same person. They used to not be a citizen, but here now today they are a citizen. So yes, this is legal. They're allowed to register to vote. 14, we need a date and a signature. When we are at the naturalizations, we have the pledge written up in larger print, and we put that right in front of the person. And oftentimes we do the filling out, and I say, read over this. That is what you'll be signing. When we send you out to do voter registrations, we try to send one of those along with you so the person can read over what they're signing, the date and the signature. Line 15 is seldom used. Very rarely do you use this. We do have people that are rural people that vote. However, they all have addresses now. In years past, my father-in-law, who lived on a farm in DeSoto, was at rural route 2, RR2. Well, that one postman did all RR2s and probably RR other things too, but he knew right where everybody lived. Since we have 911 and you call, they need to know your address. Those people don't come to you every day, so they wouldn't just know you like the postman would. So we all have addresses now. All the people, all those farms have addresses. And if they don't, they will know that, and they'll see that on there and they'll tell you about it.
We do have a couple of questions in the chat, so let's get to those. The first one is, it says, may a registrant use their initial for a middle name if that's what's on their social security card or other primary identification document?
Yes, that's fine. It doesn't have to be the whole entire name.
Okay, and then the next one. If someone declines to share the last 4 digits of their social security number, some people are concerned about identity theft. If they don't have a driver's license, is that the only alternative?
I don't know of any other alternative. If they have a driver's license and not a social, and they don't want to use the social security, they'll get by with that. Or maybe if they have a state ID, that would be something that each election authority probably would decide for themselves. I don't know, but you need one or the other. But again, I urge you to get both if at all possible. Sometimes in haste, the 0 looks like an 8 because there's an extra squiggle in the middle of it. If the election authority type in the driver's license and it doesn't come up as Beverly Logan, well, let's try the social security numbers. Okay, so the problem here is something's wrong. Then they can find the driver's license and see that, that was supposed to be a 0, not an 8. So you're giving them more than one place to track it down. It ensures the registration to go through more quickly, depending upon how busy it is. If it's a presidential election and registrations are coming in by the gallons, and okay, not right, there's the not right pile. Well, then 1,000 more come in. Well, you didn't get to the not right pile yet. You know, if you don't do it, it might end up in a pile where it doesn't get attention right away. It is better to have as much information as possible.
So we have another question. What
Yes.
if they can't remember that they're registered? Some people don't remember.
That is true. Just register again. And then you write on the card. There's actually room at the top. When it goes in, you don't send the directions with it, but you can say in just very precise, nice little printing, Mr. Brown doesn't know if he's registered. They will look that up. However, you can look that up. I would urge you to go to the Secretary of State's webpage. There's a lot of information there. It's sos.mo.gov, which is Secretary of State.Missouri.government. But sos.mo.gov is the Secretary of State. Then you click on elections and voting, and you get a drop down. Click on register to vote, and it'll bring up something. Let's check your registration, because they'd like to nip this in the bud and not have extra forms to look through. So if Linda Hansen would fill in and it says Linda Hansen is registered at such and such an address, then she doesn't have to register again. You can do that on your phone. However, I've had that be wrong. I have looked up my own name and had them tell me I was not registered. That happened on my phone. I went home and did it on my computer and I was registered. There's just some glitch sometimes that happens, but most of the time I think it's right. And it would save time all around if you were already registered, but there's no harm in registering again. And then I just would put that down. Mr. So-and-so thinks he might already be registered. Please check. There is at the bottom of a card, a box that the person can check if they would like to, if they're interested in working as an election judge. Would you like to work at the polls is basically what it is. You would then be contacted, and they're always looking for poll workers.
Yes.
They seem to never have enough, and they would call you in for training. You are paid to be trained. We have a brochure from the league called Register and Vote. And inside there are the addresses of the close by election authorities. The city, the county, Jefferson County, Franklin County, St. Charles County are the ones that we choose to list in this brochure. We ask you to give one of those to each person. Most of the people you register will be from one of those counties. Now, the new citizens come from all over the state. I still give them this. There's a lot of information about registering and voting, about petitions, how to vote in the military, voting with a criminal record, voters with disabilities, the different rights that they have, absentee voting, deadlines for that, notarizing, when things need to be notarized. We give those out, and if you are sent out on any voter registration task from the league, you'll have a supply of these. Another thing that's interesting is we have copies of absentee ballot applications from various counties. There is, however, one for just the state of Missouri, and that's probably the most sensible one.
That's an example of the card. And there's another example for a person moving to a new jurisdiction. There's a person with a separate mailing address, like if they have a PO box.
Right.
This is a rural location, even though we don't think anybody does that. Example of a name and address change. See how it's down there in part 13?
Yes, yes, you could have a name and address change.
When you always have the instructions at the top of the card that we will take off.
That tells you how to fill out the card.
Should we fill out the form for people or encouraging them to fill out the form?
Okay.
Or do we want them to take it with them?
We don't want them to take it with them, if at all possible. We want them to fill it out. And even though it's incomplete, I always think there's a better chance that it will really get there if I mail it to them with the stamped self-addressed envelope.
When a person would register on October 2nd in that drive, when can they expect to get their voter card? And is the card adequate for voter ID in the state of Missouri still?
At this juncture, yes, it is. Because the law that was passed, the
Right.
court put a stay on it.
Right.
So we're going back to the way it was before. So a driver's license, a state ID, a utility bill, that has your name and address on it, a bank statement, voter ID card, yeah.
And the time frame on that is usually about 3 weeks.
Yes.
If they haven't received it after 3 weeks, look in that register to vote thing and call your election authority and ask them if they received it.
Right. On
follow
this
up.
card, it says in big, bold, red letters, your application will be confirmed by mail within 7 business days. We tell people, if you live in the city and you got in your car and drove down to Tucker Boulevard and registered, maybe you would hear something in 7 days. Or if you're in St. Louis County, you'd have to drive to St. Anne, to the old Northwest Plaza is where the government offices are in the back. But if you register on a card like this and it has to be mailed, it's not going to happen in 7 days. Tell them to wait about 3 weeks and they can call the St. Louis City Board of Elections or the St. Louis County Board of Elections to check their registration, or they can go online like we just discussed and check their registration.
The question then for October 2nd, Library Day, though, we're expecting to bring all of those back in here.
Yes, I would be so thrilled and happy if any of you could take a library. We took along these applications to be put on the permanently disabled list. What would you say? That has a lot of weight. Permanently disabled, whoever wants to think they're permanently disabled. But we were told by the election authority to give a broad meaning and be easy on yourself and think of the worst case scenario. It's sunny, it's hot. Could you stand in line in the sun for an hour? Then you may put yourself on the permanently disabled list.
If you are disabled so that you can't stand in line for like an
Right.
hour.
Yeah,
If you physically would have to walk away from the line. What this does is it doesn't give them a ballot.
Right.
What does it do? It gives them an absentee application automatically.
people think, oh, they're just sending out ballots. Ballots are going out. Well, no, they're not. What you get every time, if you are on this list, you get a reminder. Would you like an absentee ballot? Again, for this new election, you sign, it's very simple. They send you always an addressed envelope with a stamp, goes in the mail. Then your ballot comes to you because you have again requested it. Because of course it could be a temporary thing where you needed surgery and you had to do it
For a year.
You didn't know how long. So that's just something to know that is available.
Will those be in the October 2nd packets?
Yes,
You
they
have
will.
some of-
We always put 2 in each packet.
One more thing.
This is called a pledge to vote. And we ask people, we're the League of Women Voters, we're a nonpartisan group. Would you be so kind as to give us your name and either an email or a cell phone so that we might send you an email or text reminding you at the time of an election. And 3 reminders are sent. We do not solicit their membership. We do not solicit donations. The first one goes out 6 weeks ahead of time and it says, check your voter registration. And it tells them how to do that. The next one that goes out is about 2 weeks before the election and it tells them how to get to Vote 411. We write a voter guide that is printed up in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. They also print up thousands of extra copies and we put them in libraries and YMCAs and churches. And if you belong to a church or an organization.
Vote 411 is the online. There's printed ones, but there's also online ones at vote411.org. And it's a personalized ballot. You go in and you put in your address and it makes your ballot for you. It is sweet.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
So that's why we send that out 2 weeks before the election, that
Yes.
reminder.
The third reminder, the day before or 2 days before, don't forget to vote. So we are just trying to follow up. There's no way we can follow the people we register. Somebody says, well, how many of those people do you think really vote? Well, we have no idea.
Right.
We don't know that. But if you do something like this, we're hoping that that gets
Mhm.
another percentage of the people to think about it again.
Are the
Yes,
League of Women Voters doing anything next year to reach out to high schoolers?
we do reach out to high schoolers. We in fact have two groups that are doing youth registration. And one has started up already and they sent me a schedule and they've got 6 high schools lined up. So yes, we definitely do
Thank you.
youth voter registration for the like high school seniors. Then we also go to junior colleges and well, wherever somebody asks us to go.
Okay.
We go to every naturalization ceremony, of which there are 2 a week at this time. They are downtown at the Eagleton Courthouse. We also go to any community group that asks us to come.
Thank you for coming and getting in the know about voter registration, and thank you for your excitement to serve voters in this way. It is one of the most rewarding things that we do in the league, and I'm really glad that you're going to get to take part in it.